Fear has destroyed more dreams than failure ever could. Many people are not living the life they truly want, not because they lack talent, not because they lack intelligence, but because fear quietly controls their decisions. Fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of being alone, fear of starting again. And slowly, without realizing it, they build a small emotional prison around themselves. They stop speaking honestly. They stop taking risks. They stop trusting themselves. They stop chasing the life they once dreamed about. The most dangerous thing about fear is this. It rarely screams. It whispers. It tells you, wait for the perfect time. What if you fail? What will people think? You are not ready. And while listening to these thoughts, years pass. But here is the truth. Fearlessness is not something people are born with. It is something they build. Every mentally strong person you admire once felt fear too. The difference is that they learned habits that made them stronger than their fear. In this video, you will learn 7 powerful habits that can slowly transform your mindset, strengthen your confidence, and help you become emotionally fearless starting today. Because courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward, even when fear is present. Habit 1. Stop running away from discomfort. Most fears become stronger because people keep avoiding them. They avoid difficult conversations. They avoid rejection. They avoid failure. They avoid uncertainty. They avoid anything that makes them uncomfortable. And for a short moment, avoidance feels safe. But psychologically, every time you run away from discomfort, your mind learns something dangerous. It learns that discomfort must be feared. This is how fear slowly takes control over a person's life. A student fears speaking in public, so they avoid speaking. An individual fears rejection, so they avoid expressing feelings. Someone fears failure, so they never even try. And because they keep avoiding these experiences, fear grows bigger in their imagination. The human mind magnifies whatever you refuse to face. Imagine seeing a shadow at night from far away. The more distance you keep from it, the scarier it appears. But when you walk closer, you realize it was never as terrifying as your mind imagined. Fear works the same way. Most people suffer more in imagination than in reality. The conversation you fear often lasts only a few minutes. The rejection you fear becomes a lesson. The failure you fear becomes growth. But when you avoid discomfort repeatedly, your confidence slowly weakens. Because confidence is not built by comfort, it is built by exposure. A muscle becomes stronger through resistance. The mind becomes stronger through challenge. This is why difficult experiences are important. Not because suffering is enjoyable, but because discomfort trains emotional strength. Every time you face something uncomfortable without running away, your mind changes. You begin realizing, I can handle difficult situations. That realization creates fearlessness. Many people are waiting to feel confident before taking action. But confidence comes after action, not before it. The first time you speak honestly, your voice may shake. The first time you take a risk, your heart may race. The first time you stand alone, you may feel uncertain. But each time you survive discomfort, your mind becomes calmer the next time. Courage grows through repetition. Look at how children learn to walk. They fall repeatedly. But they do not stop trying because falling is part of learning balance. Adults become emotionally weak because they expect growth without discomfort. They want success without failure, confidence without embarrassment, strength without struggle. But life does not work that way. Every meaningful transformation requires temporary discomfort. A seed breaks before it grows. Iron burns before it becomes strong. Human beings also evolve through pressure. One of the biggest psychological shifts happens when you stop seeing discomfort as danger. Discomfort is often a sign of growth. The uncomfortable workout strengthens the body. The uncomfortable truth strengthens relationships. The uncomfortable challenge strengthens the mind. Fearful people spend life protecting comfort. Fearless people train themselves to become comfortable with discomfort. That is the difference. When you avoid every difficult situation, your world becomes smaller. But when you begin facing uncomfortable situations gradually, your world expands. You stop fearing conversations. You stop fearing mistakes. You stop fearing judgment. Because your mind finally understands survival is possible even after discomfort. There is also another hidden truth. Most people are too busy fighting their own fears to constantly judge yours. The fear of embarrassment controls millions of people, but in reality, the world quickly forgets small mistakes. People think about themselves far more than they think about you. Once you realize this, a huge emotional burden disappears. You stop overthinking every action. You stop needing perfection. You stop waiting for guaranteed outcomes before taking risks. And slowly, bravery becomes natural. Not because fear disappears completely, but because fear no longer controls your decisions. The person who trains themselves to face discomfort daily develops something powerful: inner trust. They trust that no matter what happens, they can emotionally handle it. And that trust becomes the foundation of fearlessness. Habit 2. Control your mind before your mind controls you. The greatest battles in life are rarely happening outside you. They are happening inside your own mind. A person can appear calm externally while internally fighting fear, doubt, anxiety, insecurity, and overthinking every single day. Many people believe fear comes from situations, but often fear comes from uncontrolled thoughts about situations. The mind creates stories. What if I fail? What if people laugh at me? What if everything goes wrong? And slowly, imagined problems begin feeling real. This is why two people can face the same challenge but react completely differently. One person sees opportunity. The other sees danger. The situation is the same. The mindset is different. Fear grows strongest inside an undisciplined mind. If you do not control your thoughts will begin controlling your emotions. And once emotions take over, decisions become weak. A fearful mind exaggerates problems. It predicts disasters that never happen. It creates anxiety about future moments that do not even exist yet. And because of this constant mental noise, people lose confidence in themselves. The human mind is powerful. It can become your greatest strength or your greatest prison. Imagine holding a glass of water in your hand. For 1 minute, it feels light. For 1 hour, your arm begins hurting. For 1 entire day, the pain becomes unbearable. The problem is not the weight of the glass. The problem is holding it too long. This is exactly how fearful thoughts work. A small fear held inside the mind repeatedly becomes emotional suffering. Most people are not destroyed by one negative thought. They are destroyed by repeating the same fearful thought thousands of times. This repetition creates mental conditioning. The brain begins believing fear automatically. That is why mentally strong people protect their mind carefully. They observe thoughts instead of immediately believing them. Not every thought deserves trust. Just because the mind says you are not capable does not make it true. Just because fear says you will fail does not mean failure is certain. The mind often speaks from past pain, insecurity, and emotional memory, not from reality. Fearless people understand this deeply. They do not allow temporary emotions to become permanent beliefs. One negative moment does not define their identity. One rejection does not define their worth. One failure does not define their future. But to reach this level of emotional strength, mental discipline is necessary. You must learn how to pause your mind. Today, many people live in constant mental stimulation, always scrolling, always consuming noise, always comparing, always reacting. And because the mind never rests, fear multiplies. A tired mind becomes emotionally weak. That is why silence is powerful. When you sit quietly with yourself, you begin understanding your thoughts instead of becoming controlled by them. You notice how many fears are exaggerated, how many worries are imaginary, how much suffering comes from overthinking rather than reality itself. Awareness weakens fear. Psychologically, fearful thoughts survive through unconscious repetition. But once you become aware of them, their power begins decreasing. This is why practices like reflection, mindfulness, prayer, deep breathing, and silence calm the mind. They interrupt mental chaos. A calm mind sees situations clearly. A fearful mind sees danger everywhere. There is also another important truth. The mind believes whatever you feed repeatedly. If every day you feed it negativity, comparison, self-doubt, and hopelessness, fear naturally increases. But when you feed the mind courage, gratitude, discipline, and positive action, confidence slowly grows. The brain adapts according to repeated patterns. Fear is not only emotional, it becomes habitual. And habits can be changed. Many people are waiting for life to become less frightening. But real transformation happens when the mind becomes stronger than fear itself. A fearless person is not someone who never feels fear. A fearless person simply refuses to let fear make decisions for them. They feel nervous, but still move forward. They feel uncertain, but still take action. They feel doubt, but continue walking anyway. Because they understand something powerful. Thoughts are temporary visitors, not permanent masters. The moment you stop obeying every fearful thought, your life begins changing. You become calmer under pressure. You stop panicking over uncertainty. You stop imagining worst-case scenarios constantly. You stop imagining worst-case scenarios constantly. And for the first time, your mind begins working for you instead of against you. And for the first time, your mind begins working for you instead of against you. That inner control creates a different kind of confidence. Not loud confidence, not arrogant confidence, but quiet confidence. The confidence that says, no matter what happens, I can handle it. Habit 3. Detach yourself from people's opinions. One of the biggest reasons people live in fear is because they are constantly worried about what others think. They fear being judged. They fear being criticized. They fear being misunderstood. They fear disappointing people. And because of this fear, they slowly stop being themselves. They hide their ideas. They silence their voice. They delay their dreams. They pretend to fit into places that no longer match who they truly are. This is emotional imprisonment. The need for approval is one of the deepest psychological chains in human life. A person may look free externally, but internally they are controlled by opinions. Every action becomes performance. Every decision becomes calculation. Every choice becomes dependent on acceptance. And the sad part is this. Even after exhausting themselves trying to please everyone, they still cannot satisfy everybody. Because human opinions are unpredictable. Some people will criticize you for speaking too much. Others will criticize you for staying quiet. Some will judge your ambition. Others will judge your simplicity. No matter what you do, someone will always have an opinion. Once you truly understand this, a powerful freedom begins inside you. You stop trying to control how everyone sees you. Fearless people understand something important. People see you according to their mindset, not always according to your reality. A negative person may misunderstand kindness as weakness. An insecure person may feel threatened by confidence. A jealous person may criticize your growth. You cannot spend your life adjusting yourself to every mind you encounter. That path leads only to exhaustion. Imagine carrying a mirror in your hand all day and constantly checking how people react to you. After some time, you would become mentally tired. This is exactly what happens when you depend too much on external validation. You lose connection with your own inner voice. Many people know exactly what they want in life, but fear stops them because they worry about society, relatives, friends, or strangers judging them. And slowly, fear steals their authenticity. But the truth is, every person you admire had to disappoint someone in order to stay true to themselves. Growth often looks strange to people who are afraid of change. When you begin improving yourself, some people become uncomfortable. When you set boundaries, some people call you selfish. When you stop tolerating disrespect, some people accuse you of changing. But maturity is understanding that protecting your peace is more important than maintaining false approval. Psychologically, the fear of judgment comes from attaching your self-worth to other people's reactions. If people praise you, you feel confident. If people reject you, you feel broken. This creates emotional instability because your identity becomes dependent on unpredictable opinions. Fearless individuals build self-respect internally. They listen to feedback without losing themselves. They accept criticism without collapsing emotionally. They understand that disagreement is part of life. Not everyone is supposed to understand your journey. A bird does not need permission from the sky to fly. In the same way, your dreams do not need universal approval to become meaningful. The moment you stop seeking constant validation, your energy changes. You speak more honestly. You act more naturally. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop fearing rejection so deeply. And this creates emotional freedom. There is also another hidden truth. Most people are too focused on their own insecurities to think about you as much as you imagine. The mind exaggerates public attention. You think everyone remembers your mistakes, but most people are busy worrying about their own mistakes. This realization removes enormous psychological pressure. You become willing to try again, willing to fail publicly, willing to grow visibly, and that willingness creates courage. Fearless people are not fearless because they receive no criticism. They are fearless because criticism no longer controls their identity. They understand that rejection is not proof of worthlessness. Sometimes rejection is protection. Sometimes criticism is projection. Sometimes misunderstanding simply means people are seeing life from a different level of awareness. Once you emotionally detach from needing universal approval, your confidence becomes stable. Not because everybody supports you, but because your self-worth no longer depends on applause. And that inner stability makes a person incredibly powerful. Because a mind that is no longer controlled by opinions becomes free to live authentically. Habit 4. Build daily discipline. Instead of waiting for motivation. Many people want to become fearless, but they depend entirely on motivation. They wait to feel inspired before taking action. They wait to feel confident before starting. They wait for the perfect mood, the perfect time, the perfect emotional state. And because motivation keeps changing, their progress keeps stopping. This is why so many dreams remain unfinished. Motivation is temporary. Discipline is dependable. A motivated person acts when they feel good. A disciplined person acts even when they do not feel like it. And that difference changes everything. Fear becomes powerful when your actions depend on emotions, because emotions are unstable. Some days you feel strong. Some days you feel doubtful. Some days you feel energized. Some days you feel mentally exhausted. If your growth depends only on emotion, inconsistency becomes your lifestyle. But discipline creates inner strength because it teaches the mind something powerful. Action is more important than mood. Imagine a farmer refusing to water crops because he does not feel motivated that day. Eventually the field dies. Life works the same way. Your confidence, mental strength, physical health, relationships, and goals all require consistent effort, not occasional inspiration. Fearless people understand this deeply. They do not negotiate with excuses every day. They build habits. They wake up when they said they would. They continue even when progress feels slow. They show up repeatedly, even when nobody is watching. And slowly, discipline transforms their identity. Psychologically, repeated action changes the brain. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your self-trust increases. Every time you act despite discomfort, your mind becomes stronger. Every time you remain consistent, fear loses influence. Because fear feeds on hesitation. The longer you delay action, the larger fear becomes in your imagination. Think about how difficult a cold shower feels before entering the water. But once you step in, the fear disappears within moments. Many things in life are like this. The anticipation creates more suffering than the experience itself. Discipline trains you to move before fear has time to dominate your mind. That is why disciplined individuals often appear more confident, not because life is easier for them, but because repeated action has trained their mind to stop panicking. A person who exercises regularly develops physical resilience. A person who practices discipline daily develops emotional resilience. They become mentally harder to break. There is also another hidden benefit of discipline. It creates stability during emotional chaos. Life will not always feel peaceful. There will be stressful days, disappointing moments, unexpected failures, emotional pain. But disciplined habits protect you during difficult seasons. When the mind feels lost, routine creates direction. Simple habits like waking early, exercising, reading, reflecting, praying, working honestly, and keeping promises slowly strengthen inner character, and character creates courage. Many people think fearlessness comes from huge dramatic moments, but true fearlessness is built quietly through small daily victories. The victory of waking up on time, the victory of controlling anger, the victory of staying focused, the victory of continuing despite discomfort. These small wins teach the brain, I am capable of controlling myself. And self-control is the foundation of confidence. Without discipline, the mind becomes weak against temptation, laziness, distraction, and fear. An undisciplined mind constantly seeks comfort. It avoids difficulty, avoids responsibility, avoids growth. But comfort rarely creates strength. A sword becomes sharp through friction. Human beings become strong through resistance. Discipline teaches you to do what is necessary, even when it feels uncomfortable. And that ability changes your entire life. You stop depending on emotional moods. You stop making excuses. You stop quitting every time life becomes difficult, because your habits become stronger than temporary feelings. One of the most powerful psychological shifts happens when you realize you do not need to feel fearless to act courageously. Action itself creates courage. The first workout feels hard. The first speech feels uncomfortable. The first risk feels terrifying. But repeated action slowly removes emotional resistance. Your mind adapts. What once scared you becomes normal. This is why disciplined people continue growing while others remain trapped in fear. They understand that waiting for perfect confidence is a trap. Confidence is earned through consistent action, not imagined, not wished for, built. And once discipline becomes part of your identity, fear begins losing its authority over your life. Habit 5. Accept failure without losing yourself. One of the biggest reasons people remain fearful is because they have connected failure with personal worth. They believe, say, if I fail, people will reject me. If I fail, my life is over. If I fail, it means I am not capable. And because of this mindset, they stop trying. Fear of failure becomes stronger than the desire to grow. But here is the truth. Most people never learn. Failure is not the opposite of growth. Failure is part of growth. Every strong person you admire has failed many times privately before succeeding publicly. But the difference is this: they did not allow failure to define their identity. Fearful people see failure as proof that they should stop. Fearless people see failure as feedback that helps them improve. That mindset changes everything. Imagine a child learning how to ride a bicycle. They fall repeatedly, but nobody tells the child, "You fell once, so clearly cycling is not for you." Falling is understood as part of learning. But adults become emotionally fragile because they expect perfection too quickly. They want success on the first attempt, confidence without mistakes, progress without embarrassment. And when reality becomes difficult, they lose faith in themselves. Psychologically, fear of failure often comes from fear of judgment. People are not only afraid of losing, they are afraid of what others might think if they lose. So they stay inside comfort zones where failure feels less visible. But comfort zones slowly destroy potential. A bird kept inside a cage may feel safe, but it forgets how to fly. Human beings also lose confidence when they avoid challenges for too long. Failure is uncomfortable, yes, but avoiding growth creates an even deeper pain, the pain of regret. Years later, many people are not haunted by the failures they experienced. They are haunted by the chances they never took, the words they never spoke, the dreams they never pursued, the risks they were too afraid to take. That regret becomes heavier than failure itself. Fearless individuals understand something important. Failing at something does not make you a failure as a person. A failed attempt is temporary. Identity is deeper than outcomes. One exam cannot measure intelligence. One rejection cannot measure lovability. One mistake cannot measure human worth. But the mind often exaggerates failure emotionally. A small setback suddenly becomes, "My life is ruined." This is why emotional resilience is necessary. Resilient people allow themselves to fail without emotionally collapsing. They feel disappointment, but continue. They feel pain, but learn. They feel uncertainty, but keep moving. Because they understand growth is messy. A diamond forms under pressure. Gold becomes pure through fire. Strong character is also shaped through difficulty. Life teaches through challenge far more than comfort. Sometimes failure teaches patience. Sometimes it teaches humility. Sometimes it teaches preparation. Sometimes it redirects you towards something better. Not every closed door is punishment. Some failures are protection. Some are preparation. Some are necessary lessons your success could never teach you. There is also another powerful psychological truth. People who never fail often avoid challenges completely. And a life without challenge becomes emotionally small. The goal of life is not to avoid failure. The goal is to become strong enough that failure no longer destroys your spirit. Because once you stop fearing failure, you become dangerous in the best possible way. You begin taking chances, speaking honestly, trying again after rejection, learning without shame, growing without needing perfection. And this creates freedom. Many successful people are not fearless because they never failed. They are fearless because they stopped seeing failure as the end. Failure became experience. Experience became wisdom. Wisdom became confidence. That confidence cannot be faked. It comes only from surviving difficult moments and realizing, I can recover. The person who trusts their ability to rise again becomes emotionally fearless because they no longer see failure as destruction. They see it as part of becoming stronger. Habit 6. Spend time alone without feeling lonely. Many people are surrounded by noise all day, but still feel emotionally empty inside. Constant conversations, constant notifications, constant distractions, constant need for attention. And because they are never truly alone with themselves, they never develop inner strength. One of the clearest signs of emotional dependence is this. A person cannot sit quietly with their own mind. The moment silence appears, they immediately search for distraction. Music, social media, television, messages, anything to escape their own thoughts. But fearlessness grows in solitude, not loneliness. Solitude. There is a difference. Loneliness is feeling incomplete without others. Solitude is feeling peaceful within yourself. A person who cannot be alone often becomes emotionally dependent on people for happiness, validation, and identity. And dependence creates fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of losing relationships, fear of being ignored. But when you learn to enjoy your own company, something powerful happens. You stop begging for attention. You stop tolerating disrespect just to avoid loneliness. You stop staying in unhealthy environments simply because you fear being alone. Because your peace no longer depends entirely on external companionship. Psychologically, solitude strengthens self-awareness. When life becomes quiet, you begin hearing your own thoughts clearly. You begin understanding what truly matters to you, what drains you, what inspires you, what wounds you are still carrying. This is why many people avoid silence. Silence reveals truth, and truth can feel uncomfortable at first. A busy mind often hides emotional pain beneath distraction, but eventually, unhealed emotions demand attention. Fearless people do not run from self-reflection. They sit with themselves honestly. They observe their fears, their habits, their insecurities, their emotional patterns, and through this awareness, they begin healing. Most people know the world very well, but barely know themselves. They know celebrity gossip, trends, and opinions, but they do not understand their own mind. That creates inner confusion. A person disconnected from themselves becomes easily influenced by the world. But solitude creates clarity. When you spend time alone, intentionally, your inner voice becomes stronger than external noise, and that inner voice becomes guidance. Many great insights in life are discovered in silence, not chaos. A calm walk alone, a quiet morning, moments of prayer, reflection before sleep. These moments strengthen emotional stability. Because when you are constantly surrounded by noise, the mind becomes reactive. But silence slows the mind down. It helps you think clearly instead of emotionally. There is also another hidden benefit of solitude. You learn that your own presence is enough. That realization removes desperation from relationships. You begin choosing people from peace instead of loneliness. This changes everything. Desperate people often accept toxic treatment because they fear emptiness. But emotionally secure people can walk away from unhealthy situations because they know how to stand alone. That ability creates fearlessness. A tree with deep roots does not fear the storm easily. In the same way, a person deeply connected to themselves becomes emotionally difficult to shake. They still value relationships. They still love people. But they no longer lose themselves trying to keep everyone around, because they have already built a relationship with their own inner world. Modern life makes solitude difficult. People are constantly stimulated, always connected externally, but disconnected internally. And over time, this weakens emotional resilience. The mind becomes addicted to distraction. But distraction cannot replace peace. True confidence grows quietly, in moments nobody sees. It grows when you keep promises to yourself, when you reflect honestly, when you face your emotions instead of escaping them. Solitude teaches emotional independence. And emotional independence removes many fears. You stop fearing abandonment because you trust yourself. You stop fearing silence because silence no longer feels empty. You stop fearing being alone because your own company becomes peaceful. That peace creates strength. Not loud strength, not attention-seeking strength, but deep inner strength. The kind of strength that allows a person to remain calm even when the world around them changes, constantly, because anyone can feel strong when surrounded by support. But a person who can stand peacefully alone has developed a rare kind of emotional power. Habit 7. Live with purpose, bigger than fear. Fear becomes powerful when life has no deeper direction. A person without purpose becomes controlled by small worries. They overthink every opinion. Every obstacle feels overwhelming. Every setback feels like the end. But when your life is connected to something meaningful, fear begins losing its control over you. Purpose gives strength to the mind. Think about a mother lifting enormous weight to protect her child. Think about individuals sacrificing comfort to protect their family, dreams, values, or mission. Why do they suddenly become brave? Because purpose became bigger than fear. Fear still existed, but something more important stood above it. Many people remain trapped in fear because their life revolves only around comfort and survival. Avoid embarrassment. Avoid struggle. Avoid pain. Avoid uncertainty. But a life built only around comfort becomes emotionally fragile. The smallest challenge begins shaking the mind. Purpose changes that. When you wake up every day connected to something meaningful, your mind becomes more resilient. You stop living only for temporary pleasure. You stop wasting energy on meaningless distractions. You stop giving every small problem enormous emotional importance, because your focus becomes larger than your fear. A ship survives storms because it has direction. Without direction, even small waves become dangerous. Human life works the same way. Purpose creates emotional direction. It gives meaning to suffering, meaning to discipline, meaning to sacrifice. And when suffering has meaning, people become stronger. Psychologically, the human mind can endure enormous difficulty when it understands why it is enduring it. A student studies long hours because they believe in a future goal. An athlete trains painfully because they see purpose in improvement. Parents sacrifice comfort because love gives meaning to sacrifice. Purpose transforms pain into growth. Fearless people are not people without fear. They are people who have found something more important than fear, something worth struggling for. This is why empty living creates anxiety. When life revolves only around entertainment, comfort, comparison, and approval, the mind becomes shallow, and shallow minds become easily disturbed. Small criticism ruins their mood. Small delays create frustration. Small failures feel unbearable. But meaningful living creates emotional depth. A person connected to purpose does not panic over every obstacle because they understand. Obstacles are part of the journey. A mountain climber expects steep paths. A person chasing meaningful growth also learns to expect difficulty. Purpose creates endurance. There is another hidden truth here. Many fears disappear when you stop making life only about yourself. Fear grows when the mind becomes excessively self-focused. How do I look? What do people think about me? What if I fail? What if I embarrass myself? But purpose shifts attention outward. How can I grow? How can I help? How can I contribute? How can I live meaningfully? And suddenly, the mind becomes lighter. This is why service, compassion, creativity, teaching, building, and helping others often reduce anxiety. Because purpose expands the heart beyond personal insecurity. A candle does not lose its light by lighting another candle. Human beings also become stronger when they live beyond selfish fear. Many people are searching for confidence while avoiding responsibility. But responsibility often creates confidence. When people depend on you, when your work matters, when your purpose becomes meaningful, your inner strength naturally increases. You stop seeing yourself as weak, because purpose demands growth. There will still be difficult days, moments of uncertainty, moments where fear returns. But purpose helps you continue walking even during emotional storms. Without purpose, fear stops people. With purpose, fear becomes something they move through. A meaningful life does not remove struggle. It gives struggle direction, and direction changes everything. At the end of life, most people will not regret failing occasionally. They will regret living too fearfully to fully become themselves. They will regret waiting too long, hiding too much, doubting themselves too often. But a purposeful person lives differently. Even when afraid, they move forward. Even when uncertain, they continue. Even when criticized, they remain committed to what matters deeply. And over time, this creates real fearlessness. Not the fearlessness of pretending to be strong, but the fearlessness that comes from knowing your life stands for something greater than temporary fear. Fear will always exist in some form. Even the strongest people feel fear sometimes. The difference is that they no longer allow fear to decide the direction of their life. They feel fear, but they still speak, still try, still grow, still move forward, because they understand something important. A meaningful life begins the moment you stop running away from discomfort. Every small act of courage changes you. Every difficult conversation you face, every fear you confront, every moment you choose growth over comfort, you become stronger than you were before. Fear wants you to stay small, silent, comfortable, hidden. But deep inside, you were not created to live imprisoned by doubt and hesitation. You were created to grow, to evolve, to experience life fully. Do not wait for the day fear disappears completely. That day may never come. Instead, become the kind of person who can walk forward even while feeling afraid. Because courage is not perfection. It is movement despite uncertainty. And remember this, the life you want is often waiting on the other side of the fears you keep avoiding. Start small. Start today. But start, because every fearless person was once simply someone who decided they would no longer let fear control their future.